by SMEs or potential ones. Then we can leave the floor to a first round of questions and answer. And the last part of the webinar will be devoted to the presentation of the regional and national programs, or in any case incentives to support internationalization activities. So since the program is quite dense, I'd like to leave the floor first to Fabio, who will be followed shortly afterwards by Jérôme Chifflet, so that we can start with the very first session of this panel. So the floor, I would say, is yours, meaning that, as we were mentioning, the very first part will tackle, in particular, the impact on the company structure in this organization when we are talking about internationalization, potential models for internationalization strategies, and then some initiatives to enter markets like business-to-business meetings, international fairs, and as I was commenting before, a very short round of table on the partner regions, on the financial supporting measures. So, Fabio, I guess that you have your presentation to show, to upload. So, thanks a lot for your cooperation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. You can. Okay. Very good. So, before starting, I would like to introduce myself in about 1 minute. My name is Fabio. I am currently teaching at Macerata University, economics, with a focus on small and medium enterprises. Today, I would like to share with you some, let's say, elements related to how to go global, not only in theory, but also in practice. So, let's start from the beginning. I would like to share with you something related to why to go global. As you know, but in Italy, we have about 4.5 million companies.
Fabio, just a second. If you have a presentation you want to share with us, you have to click on the schermo.
Okay, I will do it. Sorry, because I changed my computer, so just give me just 1 second, and I will do it. Meanwhile, I will start my introduction. So I was saying that first of all, you should know that in Italy we have about 4.5 million companies. Okay, this means that we have a lot of companies, and these companies are for about 98% small or medium enterprises. 80% of these small and medium enterprises are family owned. This means that we also some, let's say, family issues related to the governance of our companies, and this aspect also affects what the internationalization process. What to share with you, meanwhile I look for my presentation, is the fact that it's well known that global is a sort of, let's say, of the fact that if you are in a, for example, crisis as we had during the last one, during the 2008, that you are in a fair position if you have 70%, 80% of your revenues coming from international markets, who are highly dependent on the international, on the domestic market. Can you hear me?
Presentation, Fabio, we don't
see
yet. You have to condividi schermo.
1 second, please, because I have some technical problem. 1 minute, okay? Okay. Now,
can you put it on a large screen on presentation mode? Gray boxes on it, so maybe that.
May boxes.
Can you see it now?
Yes. Now we can.
Okay, very good.
You have to move the video. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, but as I said, I had problems with my Mac and I had to switch to Windows, so I had some problems. So I was saying that the first thing that you should know is the fact that our economic structure is made by 4.5 million companies. 80% of these companies are family-owned, and 98% of this company can be classified as small or medium enterprises. On the other side, our studies show that during the global crisis, the financial crisis that we had around 2008 and 2014-13, if you had a company, small, medium, or big, doesn't matter, and you had about 70 up to 80% of your revenues, it means your income, your revenues coming from international markets, are, let's say, less exposed to the economic crisis. Why? Because one problem that we have right now in Italy is the fact that our companies, the 4.5 million companies, are mainly highly dependent on the domestic market. These are a strategic problem that I will try to discuss in a while. So, who has the need to go global, to get, let's say, in new markets, to go in new markets? I would say almost everybody. I would say nobody. Why? Going back to the economic structure of our economic system, the problem is that we go global, but at the same time we have huge organizational problems that are not able to support the internationalization process. This means that before global, we should focus first on the organizational issues related to our company. More in detail, we have two problems related to our organizational structures as we focus on small and medium enterprises. The first one is related to the fact that the family-owned structure means family first within the company with a boss that is mainly, let's say, the one band, okay, of the company, is at the time the strength point, but also the weak point of the company. And this means that the company is highly dependent on the entrepreneur and cannot develop, let's say, in the most sustainable way possible while going abroad or while selling also in the domestic market. The problem related not only on the organizational side, but also on the economic and financial side, is that go global is not a moment, it's a process. So internationalization is not a moment, but a process. It costs a lot of money. For example, even though if you want just, let's say, take part to a fair, an international fair, it takes, time, it takes money. You have to go there, you have to prepare the fair, you have to prepare many things, and if you count all the time that you need to prepare everything, you will spend about 10,000, 20,000 euros. And for a small or medium company, Italian company, this money is a lot of money actually, especially because of the return on investment will be very, very, long in terms of time. So who needs to go global? Everybody. Who can go global? Not so many companies because of these two problems. Organizational problems, our structure is very weak, and above all, economic and financial problems. Our companies, especially small and medium companies, 98% of the Italian economy is quite weak in terms of financial and the economic stability. So let's move on very quickly to the next slide. Big companies versus small and medium enterprises. Of course, the dimension of the company matters, Because, if you want to go, for example, in Switzerland or in Russia or in Sweden or in China, whatever, if you have just a small or a medium company, the problem is related to the fact that, you have additional problems, you have economic and financial problems, your structure is highly dependent on the entrepreneur. So what do? Sometimes being small is a disadvantage. Sometimes being small could be also an advantage. Why? Because you could be very quick at taking decisions, and sometimes, the fact that you are quick could have, let's say, positive impact on your decision process. On the other hand, as I mentioned before, being small or being medium small could be a problem in relation to the fact that your resources are scarce, and for this reason, it could take time to go global. Moving on, the other problem that we have, if we want to consider to go global, is related to the maturity stage of your industry. What does it mean? It means that if you want to go global and you are selling pasta or, I don't know, machineries or other thing related to our, let's say, 4 main industries that we have in Italy: furniture, foods, and the other things like fine machineries and fashion. Of course, these are all mature industries, and it means that the margins will be very, very low in that industry. It means that there will be a lot of competitors, both on the domestic side and, of course, on the international side. So every entrepreneur should take into consideration what? 2 things. The first one, if I'm competing in a mature industry, I should first consider which are the most performing products or services that I could sell abroad. This means understanding which is the gross margin, which is, let's say, the most relevant product line in order to go abroad, not with a huge bouquet of products, but just with a very focused bouquet of products or services, of course. The thing is to understand that if I am in a mature industry, I should also do one thing: understanding how to cope with competitors, how to cope with margins that are constraining, and in general, if it's worth or not going abroad with that kind of products or services. Because sometimes, if you go abroad and you don't have, let's say, the knowledge about, for example, profitability of your products or services, selling abroad could be worse than not selling abroad. So you should understand in what kind of situation you are, given the fact that 75% of our companies are in a mature industry, in this moment in Italy. So it means that maybe the vast majority of the participants of this webinar now are competing in a mature industry. So let's skip this and let's go to the domestic market and the importance of the domestic market. Before going global, before going outside our, let's say, national boundaries, we should first ask ourselves, are we sure that we have, let's say, exploited our domestic market at the maximum level? Sometimes the answer is no. Try to think about your company. Maybe your company sells just, in a regional market, or maybe just, let's say, in some regions of Italy. But, when you want to structure a strategy, a business development strategy, a commercial strategy, a sales plan, you should understand if you are covering all the market potential that you are, let's say, competing in. So this means that, for example, you should ask yourself, do my potential customers that I have, for example, in Liguria region or in Lombardy region or in Emilia-Romagna region, yes or no? 99% of the cases, the answer is no. So you should first understand how to map your potential customers in the domestic market, and to understand if this market is and for you in order to, let's say, make your company growing. Okay. Then after that, after your company has, let's say, exploited the domestic market in a profitable way, you should say, okay, now I am quite competitive in my market. Why? not considering going abroad. Okay, so the first step should be being very, let's say, robust and profitable within the domestic market, and on then trying to scale up in other markets, like for example, nearby markets like France, Germany, and so on and so forth. We'll try to consider that 7% of our export is highly concentrated in Germany, France, and nearby neighboring countries. This means that global and going international doesn't mean selling in China, okay? It could be also selling in Switzerland, selling in France, selling in nearby countries in order to, for example, easier logistics, and more general also trying to have control on the international operations. So the other cultural message that I would like to share with you is that before going global, could be better considering the domestic market as a key asset in order to be profitable, and then, of course, to try to exploit it in the best way possible. Another message is related to human resource management, so people management and internationalization. As I said before, one message is related to the fact that with 98% companies is small or medium, 8% of these companies family owned. This means that when in Italy you are talking about internationalization, you're talking about a company, a family, and maybe sometimes these people don't want to go abroad. Maybe family members don't want to go abroad because their wife, they have some, their life in Italy, and they don't want to move. So what happens? Sometimes it happens that the most relevant strategy that entrepreneurs, Italian companies use is export, because of this reason. Because with export, you can stay here in Italy and you can sell your products or services abroad. This is something, let's say, quite sometimes to say, but we have analyzed about 2,500 companies right now, small, medium in Italy, and I can say that this approach, the export-oriented approach, is the most used one because of this reason. Because people don't want to move, people want to stay to set their life here, and they don't want to, let's say, stay or live on a stable way, a stable base abroad. So the entrepreneur tend to, let's say, define a market, and then only then to set international activities via export and not via a prominent activities that I will show you in a while. So the other cultural message related to people and internationalization is people, not by numbers, and there are problems in managing, let's say, the way of putting these people abroad, not only on a stable base but also for business development activities. The thing is that also culture matters, as I will show you in the next slide. Culture matters because sometimes we think that, what the product that work very well in Italy, for example, food, fashion, and so on, could work in the same way also abroad. This is not true. So both about the, integration between, for example, our products and the local market, our services and the local market, but also understanding what kind of culture we are facing. Think of China. China is totally different from Italy. Some things that could work in Italy could not work in China. For example, L'Oréal or other nice and very beautiful and big companies went to China and it was a flop. Why? Because they were thinking in a European, or Western way, while they think in an Asian way. So you also balance integration and culture, trying to understand if your products or services, let's say, fit the local taste, also the local needs, and more in general, let's say, the potential of the market in relation to your best products or services. If you don't do that, if you don't take into account the cultural aspect, you could be, you will succeed, but you could be also not so lucky, and it could be a flop. So it means that your company is investing money on a market, and then it won't be profitable at all. Why? maybe because of cultural problem, maybe because your product doesn't fit the local needs, or maybe just because they don't like it because, for example, the local traditions or the local tastes are totally opposite in comparison to the Italian ones. So culture is still a very, very important factor, and especially when talking about cultural distance, you cannot take into consideration this kind of aspect. For example, I work in Russia, in St. Petersburg. Here, people in Italy love eating in a, let's say, predetermined way. So you have breakfast, you have lunch, you have dinner. While in Russia, they eat every day, everything at any hour. So it means that if you have a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, you take into consideration that you cannot open for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, but you have to manage your, let's say, activity, your business in a totally different way. And this is also with many other things in many other states or cities. So cultural aspects are, let's say, highly, highly relevant. Moving and implementation. Many companies are very focused on implementation. But if you don't have a strategy, you cannot be very, let's say, successful unless you are very lucky. So how much is important strategy? Strategy is, I think, 80% of the whole, let's say, pie in relation to internationalization process. Why? Because if you don't think before doing something, maybe you the percentage of failure could be very high. Of course, execution is also very important, but the most important thing is not related only to execution and strategy, but about control. You don't control what you are doing if every month you are not saying, okay, we have invested this money in this market, how much money we are doing here, how much profits we are doing here, what kind of problems we have. If you don't, follow up your strategy, your implementation process. So if you don't control, of course, you could have a lot of problems in relation to the internationalization process. And this is very, very important because in Italy, one problem that we have is that small and medium enterprises don't have culture of control. They have the culture of control in terms of organization. They don't have the culture of control in terms of numbers. They don't know, for example, if the balance sheet would be okay or not okay during the year. For example, they will discover it in our research just 1 year later because they are not focused on the process. They are focused on doing things, working, trying to sell something, and in this way they will lose, sometimes the focus and also a lot of money. That's why, especially when talking about internationalization, control is highly relevant. I will skip this slide because I've just said that implementation is important, but control is highly relevant. Let's try to move to the entry modes, so the entry strategies that all companies have to enter a market. I will try to focus especially on the most important ones related to small and medium enterprises. So, the first mistake, one-size-fits-all approach. It means that, okay, this is the product, this is the market, I don't care, I go and I try to sell. I don't try to, let's say, adapt my product, my service, my way of thinking, I go and I sell. McDonald's did in China. Do you know what happened? That McDonald's failed, and today Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, is the market leader. Why? Because Kentucky Fried Chicken tried to adapt, try to understand the local problems, while McDonald's just said, we are McDonald's, we go there, we try, and we sell, and fail. Now McDonald's is it's market leader as in other countries like in Italy. So the message is that France is different from Italy, Germany is different from France, Bolzano is different from Bologna, and many other places are different. The world is very similar, but it's very different at the same time. So, of course, the thing to do is understanding where similarities, in which market there are similarities in terms of needs, in terms of rules, in terms of many things, and trying to understand if the one-size-fits-all approach could work or not. If not, you should try to say, okay, let's understand which are the differences, and let's try to understand how to cope with this kind of differences. So, that is relevant, but not for all companies, could be also the e-commerce channel in related to entry strategy. But I should say that we have just finished our research on e-commerce in Italy, and we have discovered that in about 92 cases out of 100, the e-commerce will give you just 1% of your total revenues per year. So it means that if you try to enter a market with the e-commerce platform, okay, Amazon, okay, you will have problems in creating revenues during that year just using e-commerce. So it'll be used for, creating a pilot test, like, okay, let's see if they like our product or not. But don't think that with e-commerce right now, today, you can, let's say, make a lot of money, because, revenues to sustain your activity in short term, in the midterm, and in the long term. E-commerce will give you money over the long run. But, if you need money now because you have an economic and financial structure that is weak, your organization cannot focus on many things, so you have to focus on few things that create profits today. It's just a tool, it's not the answer. Okay, so let's move to the other thing that I think you consider as the most important one: export. As I said before, export is the most relevant entry strategy for Italian small and medium enterprises. Why? First, because it's one of the less expensive, and second, because it gives you the opportunity to say, "Hi, here, I send you the product, okay, or you will get my service, and that's it." Okay. The problem that export, if according to the scientific literature, not about according to reality, should use where the market is not that much strategic. Okay. While unfortunately in Italy, as we have the problems that I said to you before, organizational problems, small medium enterprises, there are 98% of the total number of companies. Of course, export is the most relevant entry strategy. So we should use export in a different way, but let's say not say that we are using export in this way. We are using export as, let's say, almost the only possible to go global. Okay, this is because our companies are very small. How to use export? Very easy. You have to select markets, and you have to try to monitor them, to study them, and then to find customers. How? Really, the most relevant way is using international fairs. Okay, so it means going there, investing money, investing your time, investing the time of your people, preparing the fair before, and then going there. Is it, let's say, the most effective way? Of course not. It's not the most effective way, but unfortunately, it's, let's say, the most well-known way that we have in Italy to sell our products or services. But again, I repeat, this is not the most relevant one. This could be also another option. It means that before going there, okay, you could first study the market. It doesn't mean that you have to open a representative office there. You could also, let's say, try to contact people there, local people there that have a representative office, try to understand what kind of activities are going on there, what kind of information they can give you, what kind also of opportunities are there. You could, as you know that small and medium enterprises cannot stay there, the entrepreneur cannot stay in the representative office, we cannot pay people to stay there. The only thing to do, this is my opinion according to our research, is to, let's say, contact somebody there, try to get data from that kind of representative office or whatever, agent or whatever, and trying to do what? To get data, to grab data, and trying to understand how to set up your strategy to enter the market in the best way possible. So let's say that the export is one way. The representative office is the second way. You can also say, I will not set a representative office. I will use, let's say, local people there, like agents distributors, and so on and so forth, in order to get data and to understand how to create and do business there. Another important way to go international is about, creating partnerships, represented by partnerships. Partnerships are very relevant and very important. Why? First, mainly they are free. Okay, you just maybe have to rule the partnership with the local partner that you are going to use, but mainly they are free. They are out of charge, let's say. The other thing is that they can be formal or informal. Formal means that you have to write down a contract, especially if you're in Europe, in the US, in China, you write down a contract, and the day after it will be, let's say, useless. But let's say that generally speaking, they can be formal or informal. Informal are, okay, gentleman agreement. You are my partner, I am your partner, let's try to do business together. The other one is, let's try to create a contract to understand if we can develop a market together. For example, our products are complementary, or for example, our services are complementary, or maybe we meet in a, for example, international fair. You see that my products is okay, let's try to create a distribution partnership. I give you the product, and you will give me the market, the channel, the distribution channel. This is also something very relevant that you should take into consideration, especially if you are trying to go global, because this is a very powerful way to go global, spending not that much money. The thing is, of course, controlling the partnership, trying also to visit the partner, try to have contacts in order to reinforce the time, the relationship with the partner. Next, I will try to move very fast so you can ask questions. Licensing. The most relevant case about Italy is, for example, Piaggio, Vespa. They gave in license to LML the Vespa. Okay, so the production of Vespa. Now they quit Piaggio. They quit the product Vespa, while LML is still using Vespa and is also selling Vespa in Italy. So it means this is the product. I give you the permission to sell or produce it on BL or on your BL. It's not a problem. You pay me royalties. You will pay me a certain amount of money. Well, it depends. Maybe a product is not that much strategic for you, or maybe you don't want to be that much, within that market, but you need that market. So, give the license, maybe with a formal partnership, let's say, alliance could be very relevant in order to penetrate the market, and of course, in order to be, instead of being just, highly dependent on your local market. There are disadvantages. The first one is that, for example, as in the case of Vespa, partner, the LML, the Indian company, started saying after some years, okay, this is your Vespa, now we have our own Vespa, we invented this Vespa, and we don't want to be, your partner anymore. So they were almost, accused Piaggio of copying Vespa from them. So, there are some paradoxes sometimes. Licensing is very important, but if you don't control the operation, could be also quite risky. Look at it, for example, the Piaggio case. Joint ventures are also very relevant, but they far more complex than, for example, partnership, and more in general are of two kinds. The first one that is very similar to the partnership is the so-called contractual joint venture. It means that you sign a contract with your partner in which you say, okay, just for this activity, we will create this kind of agreement, and this kind of agreement, we will do this, and that. While the second kind of joint venture is called equity joint venture, in which you will create a company, you will put, for example, 50%, I will put my 50% things of Ericsson, that now doesn't exist anymore, and they were creating a new company in which Sony was 50%, Ericsson 50%, Sony was putting technology, Ericsson was putting the know in mobile phones. They were trying to go on the market in a way. let's say, a fashionable item. Why? Because, people think that through joint venture, through these kind of alliances, they can solve many problems. In reality, sometimes joint venture create also a lot of problems. Think of cultural distance, Japanese people with Swedish people, or Italian people with, I don't know, Chinese people. So it's a good strategy, but it's a very risky strategy. That, as I said before, Italian companies use export, international affairs, and the agents and distributors in order to get access to the market, and stay there, and they try to sell products or services in this way. They're not using that much licensing, they're not using that much joint ventures, and they are not using that much the other strategy that I will show you now, acquisitions, because, as we have companies that are very, very small, since they don't have the money to buy other companies abroad. If you want to enter a market and you want to control the market, the best way is to buy somebody and control the market thanks to that kind of company that you have bought. Our economic structure is very weak, very small, in terms of dimensions, and our companies don't have the resources, financial resources, to buy, foreign companies, except for other companies like Eni, Fiat, and many others. But this is just 1% of our economy. So I will keep this kind of entry strategy, not because it's not relevant, but just because it's very far from the Italian reality that we have now. The so-called direct investment abroad. You can buy a company, or you can create your own, company abroad. For example, you will start creating your factory there. You will start, putting there your machineries and so on. This is, for example, very relevant when you are talking about outsourcing practices. This means that we are, manufacturing shoes. Instead of producing shoes in Liguria or in my region or in Tuscany, we will go in Mania. Okay, very nice, because you will, for example, spend less money in, labor force. But the other side, the problem is that you are surviving a lot of debt, bank debt. You're asking for money to, for example, your stakeholders or your shareholders. The financial pressure on your company will be higher, especially in the first 5 years. So, very nice strategy, going abroad and investing, creating your own company, your own factory. But on the other side, this strategy is very far from the Italian reality, because unfortunately, as I said before, in the case of the acquisition, problems in terms of picture and financial structure. I mean, weak companies in terms of money. So, what kind of questions you should take into considerations before going abroad, or maybe while being abroad? The first thing is where to go, because abroad doesn't mean anything. You say, I want to go in Russia. Russia is the most, the biggest country in the world. You want to go to St. Petersburg, or you want to go to Vladivostok? Or let's go to Europe. Europe where? You want to go to or you want to go to, I don't know, Helsinki? You be very precise. You want to go to New York? Okay, New York is let's say a city, or almost a state, I would say. So New York, where and how? Okay, so you be precise and you have to be focused. Because remember, resources are very scarce, and if resources are very scarce, you not, let's say, be that effective if you if you don't select a very, very precise geographic area. Second, when to go? It depends. First of all, it depends on the state of your company in terms of financials and organizational aspects. If you take into consideration financials and organizational aspects, you are just going there, because you want to an opportunity, but in the long term, maybe you will damage your company instead of creating opportunity. opportunities because, for example, you will sell by losing money, because maybe you will stress your organizational structure, and you won't be that much, strategic in development of your company. So be very, very, let's say, careful in order to understand where to go and when to go. Markets are always there. They're always, demanding for something. You need to go in, not, now. You need to go in when the right moment, but the right moment not only for the market, but also for your company. I would say the best answer is 0, because our too small, okay, to invest money. So this means that before going, you should, think, you should create a plan. You should create a, let's say, maybe pilot test in order to go there. Maybe you should select just few things to do in order to go there with less money possible that you have to spend, less organizational problems, that are created for sure because of the internationalization effort that you have to put in this action. And above all, I think that entrepreneurs understand that every time they consider going abroad, they are, let's say, wasting some time really with their domestic market. And if you haven't exploited yet the potential, the full potential of your domestic market, you should ask yourself, I'm doing the right thing or not? I would say, because if you go global, you diversify your portfolio, okay, your customers. But no, if you're very weak and you are trying to go abroad just because you are very weak financially and economically on the traditional side, and you are trying to transfer abroad, this is not the right strategy. And how to go there? As I said before, the first thing is export. But before export, there are, many things to do. Studying the market, and above all, trying to understand what before focusing inside the company to understand if your company is ready to go abroad or not. Because if it's weak, and could be, let's say, the case of many companies that we analyze, you should very careful. Okay, there are, I think, and I hope, some questions. So I will try to answer questions.
Yes, thanks a lot, Fabio, for your intervention. I understand that it's not easy to condense in such a short time, a general overview of internationalization strategies and topics. But in any case, I guess that you have given participants a general framework, so a lot of inputs. Maybe they, I don't know if they are ready to ask you questions. Of course, I invite all of them to do it right now. They can also do it by asking it directly by voice. I mean, not only by chat. If in case you have maybe some, if you need more time to think about what has been told so far, you can always write us a chat, and the chat message will report it afterwards. So I leave some minutes to the audience to raise questions by voice or by chat. And of course, I'm prepared to give the floor in a couple of minutes to Jérôme Chifflet. I will handle on your behalf, as we have agreed, your presentation. So we'll soon already. I can already do it while we are waiting. So that's the first part. So be shy if you have some questions, whether by voice or by chat. Please do now. In case I'm just asking Fabio, can you stay with us until the end, or at least until it is very okay?
Yeah,
so
pleasure. Thanks.
By chance they have something to ask, maybe afterwards they think about it and they come back to you. Just checking with Andrea, my colleague, if by chance he sees any message. Otherwise, I give the floor to.
Any questions at the moment?
Okay. So, Jérôme, we kindly invite you to deliver your presentation. I will try to follow your argument so that I can scroll the slides on your behalf.
open. You can hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rafaela. So I will take just 20 minutes roughly to give you an idea what is the molecular startup model for growth. But first of all, I would like to introduce myself. So behind me, let's say 35 years of career, and just to be very short, I'm for 15 years as a researcher for Orange Lab Research, 10 years as manager of large company, and more for my talk today, 10 in touch with startup. 4 years as a CEO, and I launched my startup. So let's say 18 years ago. So but I was entrepreneur for 4 years, and also then in EIT. EIT is a European Institute of Innovation and Technology, and in EIT, in this European body, I coach startup for 5 years. So it means that I spend 5 years of my time running in Europe, maybe 9 countries of Europe, of course, Italy, Germany, Spain, also Finland, Sweden. And my job was to coach startups, to raise money, to help startups for raising money. So I learned some lesson, of course, from this experience. And my talk today is only to talk about this experience. Okay? I talk about startups, growth, and molecular. So, first of all, what does it startup today? Startup even in 2000, when I launched my first startup, it was nothing to see with today. So, startup, a lot of things has happened since at least 2014, what we can call the Cambrian moment. What is that for at least 3 things? First of all, first thing, which is in the startup world, resources are free, not free, but if you provide capacity or CPU, you can access to the capacity for everybody, even free, So let's change. In startup world is mindset of entrepreneur. In 2012, a survey from 37,000 people from 48 to 37, 2/3 of the people, 2/3 wanted to be entrepreneur. So it's a change, big change in mindset first. I think the support. If you know the number of accelerator, even funding access, it's a huge number of help when you open today. So it was the main change. New is what new business model. For example, first you see the kind of explosion of matchmaker sites. The wide e-commerce. It's a very big change. So it's kind of business model. So important. And at least, what called disruptive technology. Disruptive technology means that today you can launch startup new technology. Let's say 30 or 40 years ago, the research development of the startup was very quite kind of linear. You can, okay, please. So, for example, you have research. So, company invests in research, then development, then market, industry. So, it was quite a linear process. Today is not the same. You can launch a new company with new technology in a couple of years. Okay, it's the third change. So, next, please. So, another.
Sorry, just not to spoil your presentation. Can you just tell me when you want me to switch?
Yes,
I'm
please.
trying to follow,
yes.
but...
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Please, next slide, please, for the time. Thank you, Rafaela. So, shrinking. What does it mean? It means that, for example, in the next 10 years, 40% of all the S&P 500 company will disappear. 40%. The average of lifespan of company for S&P 500 company decreased from 60 years to 15 years, even earlier to 50, so 15 years. And of course, you can keep, for example, if you put the next slide, please, you can see its valorization. You know, it took to IBM took maybe 25 years for IBM to reach the valorization of 1 billion, 25 years. What's WhatsApp or Instagram, or maybe it's a couple of months, 18 or a couple of, you know, for YouTube, it's, I say 18 months for YouTube to reach the capitalization of 1 billion. So it's really crazy. Okay? So it's an introduction about the change you can find in the startup world. Please. Growth. Why growth? You know, my you know, very wealthy. You have tree and it doesn't need any growth at all. So why? Do we need growth? Why? Because just as I told you, the time scale is so shrink that if you have only 18 months in front of you to for example, e-commerce site, you do have a very strong growth model. So it's, of course, growth is not necessity. You launch a pizzeria, you can make a lot of money without growth. It's very clear. But if you are in a high-tech, let's say, especially in ICT company, okay, we do need growth. So for growth, in fact, you have at least two models. Okay. The first model, as Peter Thiel, Peter Thiel was the co-founder with Elon Musk of PayPal. Okay. He wrote a very interesting book, 0 to 1, and explained that if you want to stay alive for a startup, you have to really, let's say in your business, you have to monopoly. It's one way. And to be in, or to stay monopoly, okay, when you have structure, a startup, one is, for example, to make a deal with large company. It's what the Julie Meyer model of, let's say, David and Goliath model. Of course, if you can make a deal with SAP, with Orange, with, let's say, very large, with Google, with Facebook, if you make a deal with a large company, it's one way to get a very large growth. But this is, as a, you know, as a startup, very, very difficult to make a deal with large company. Don't dream. You can spend a lot of time to discuss with a large company, but before you sign a contract with a company, it takes time. So it is not only the solution. Like, please. So, what in fact, the definition of a startup now is much more a company. I love the definition of Stephen Blank, who said a startup is a company looking for a business model that allows for fast and profitable growth. And it's very clear that for a startup, if you want to be wealthy, you want to find a growth model. But then is that we live, for example, it's very difficult to find growth when you live in Europe, because it's a very fragmented market. Next slide, please. So very clear. We have a goal, and with several constraints. First constraint, within a very short time period. Either a monopoly or to be to what you call disaster. Also, geographical expansion, and in all it has been said by you. I really share all these points. It was very clear, and it's very difficult to get geographical expansion in Europe due to the fact of the fragmentation of this market. Next slide, please. In fact, just the story of no longer. So it's just a story I found in a book of Salim Ismail, Exponential Organization, very interesting. And explain, and in this book you can find some explanation about the growth of the, and one of the big mistakes, for example, if a company can make. Nokia bought in 2007, Nokia bought Navtec. Navtec was a network of infrastructure of sensor abroad. They put sensor who measure the traffic, for example. Nokia bought this company. And what happened? And Nokia thought that with all this sensor, and if we match the mobile phone with sensor, it provides information, very useful information. The point is that just a couple of years later, Waze started Israel. Waze, exactly the same thing, but not using physical infrastructure of sensor, but only your mobile phone of everybody. Learn and of this slide is in the case in the word abundance. Okay, home access is better than home. Okay, and if that the value of Nokia from 1 billion, 8 billion. Okay, and very. Next slide. Okay. Now, in fact, what are the successful growth models we know? We know, of course, the Pietro is a very famous example of Airbnb, for example. It was the best example. Another solution. Next slide, please. Oh, yes. So, as I told you before, if you're lucky, you can be bought by Google, a large company. It's David and Goliath model. Next slide, please. And the next is what I call modular startup model. What I talk about this model. I told you that I spend my time working or traveling in Europe 1 week, and I sort of started. And what I saw in this period, I saw a startup, and a week later I was in Madrid, and I same startup. Okay, and if you take an entrepreneur in Italy, okay, who have a good idea, for example, a student coming from Politecnico of Torino, an idea, what in your sense, what is the probability that I find another guy with the same idea in Europe? What is the probability? Closer to one. The point is, okay, what can we do? It's like if your idea has started with like very low entry barriers, that you say you can know a lot of patterns behind your idea. So know that the same guy in Italy, in Germany, in Spain, in Sweden, with the same idea. Okay, maybe to see if you can guy. And the well-known example is BlaBlaCar. No, BlaBlaCar is a French guy, with a very simple idea to share his car between two cities. Okay, and this guy at the beginning understood that there was a guy with the same idea. He found it. He found this guy in Italy. Okay, 9 months to discuss with this guy. Okay, what do you do? Either cooking, but if you run in Italy and run in France, you're entering because I already there. And I never make business with Italy because you are already there. And you make one company together, okay, it could be a great idea. You know, this discussion took 9 months. But months later, Italy and I decided that it was a clever, very smart idea. And after this time, the French and Italian guy decide to work together. They go to Germany and discuss with the guy in Berlin with the same idea. And of course, the discussion will stay only 1 week and not 9 months. Okay, and after they raise a lot of money. So, okay, here it's not only this is not a new, let's say, a new idea or the idea. No, it's another way. For next slide, please. So, the idea is if you to get a very powerful growth model, one way, not the only way. One way is to try to build your molecule with your clone. You can find this country and try to see if you can build a molecule with this guy. I'm not sure, and I agree with Fabio. If you want to make business abroad in another country, there is a lot of other cultural, other physical, other, a lot of other. So one way in short time to grow or to expand business in another country, easily to make a deal with another entrepreneur. But of course, the idea is very okay. It seems interesting, but you understand that the point is, okay, it's very, very difficult to find a guy who would like to share this project. But sometimes it exists, and more I find this kind of company. Next slide, please. So, yeah, just a remark. All what I said is really is true for two hypotheses, two assumptions. First assumption for startup in ICT in Europe, because already fragmented. You take the global figure, the size, the number of the people, the product, is like we are in front of United States. But as we talk about the market capitalization, it's very clear that we have a big problem. So the fragmentation of the market are blocked for startup in each country. And the startup model is really to overcome this problem. Next slide, please. So the definition is very clear. It's only an aggregation of two companies addressing market. It's a clone. It's not necessarily exactly the same company. Even a lot of clones in Europe, but addressing the same market, make a consistent product at the end. So we have a very simple definition. Next slide, please. So the property are clear. The advantage are very clear. Because in fact, what you're doing when you make a molecular startup, you price the cost. It's very important. all the hurdle, culture hurdle, fiscal hurdle, language hurdle in between the two countries. Okay, and let's say the chemistry metaphor for chemistry is more and more your molecule will be complex, the more and more it will be difficult to copy. It's very interesting. So also it's when you want to raise money, investors love this kind of model, because of course you take the risk and speed up the growth of the company. Next. The idea is very simple. Beyond my experience, I recommend some very interesting book who talk about this and growth model. Next slide. So of course, if you want to have much more info this model, you can. I wrote two paper, and you can. Okay, I can this paper or what's the bear code for this startup.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I guess that we have just had two different kind of approaches to the issue of internationalization. I mean, Fabio Papa, of course, hold, let's say, more methodological explanation of what are the tools and strategies to make a company become international. While Jérôme has given, of course, a very peculiar and personal witness what can be help to start, let's say, in any case, a cooperation process also in addition to an internationalization process. Is there any curiosity or a question from the audience, or also from, I don't know if Fabio is that, I guess so, and if you want to, I don't know if you want to comment or to complement something that could have skipped before. We still have some time. I mean, we can manage time effectively. So on one hand, I invite participants to raise questions, and on the other, the speakers as well.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much, Jérôme, for your presentation. That was very interesting. I think that there is something very relevant for entrepreneurs that are listening to us, related to the molecular model, related also to startups and not only startups. I think, and this is the question for you, that this model could be also, let's say, applied and shared between small and medium enterprises in Italy. Because you see now, we have 4.5 million companies, they are all small, and to grow, they could try to create partnerships in order to go abroad, or maybe also to find local partners, as you said, in Europe or in other places, in order to grow, to create distribution channels or partners abroad, and so on. I think that this could be, something that can be, let's say, applied also to our companies, or not, in terms of molecular model you explained.
Thank you. You're right. I fully agree with that. You know what? In fact, I also found some clone. Sometime between Marseille and Nice. So you're right. You're right. The point is, and you understood very well. The point is, the company are close. Difficult sometimes. It's very clear that if you are in Torino and you want to make business in Helsinki, understand very well how this guy from Helsinki can help you. But if you're in Torino and it's very difficult to find a guy with Milano, for example, in Milano, who can help you. But you're perfectly right. I think it's if I have to sum up the difficulties of my model, it's the point is not the ethical issue, is not a marketing issue, a human issue. Because the only condition is the two CEO share the same mission and work business together. But it is very clear that this kind of model, it's because there is no money issue between. It's just discussion. If you want to make the same business, and very clear that a company with between a company in Milan and a company in Sophia Police make business together and much more stronger. But at the end of the day, there is one CEO. So okay, it's an issue. But you are right.
Very interesting, because the suggestion that comes from your model is that there is, let's say, potentially no boundaries for growth. Okay, and if you apply the molecular model to our small and medium enterprises, they could grow, spending not that much money and trying to, let's say, find out partners, even local partners, to expand their, let's say, presence abroad, and of course also revenues and the profits.
Exactly, you're right. But I said it's the issue. Okay, if the two guys, if the two CEO agree, to me, it's fine, it works. If not, it works. So, but anyway, when I talk about this molecular problem, molecular structure, go very people believe in me, and now some CEO call me and ask me to find a clone in Germany or in Finland or in Europe. So I'm quite confident that the things are changing, and entrepreneurs now understood that there's no time to I say, I could say, for example, that I don't believe in organic growth in ICT and much more external growth. It's not the way. But I fully I share your point, and all what you said it was very true.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have also a question from my side. I hope not to have missed it in your presentation, and sorry if that's the case, but I was trying to understand how concretely works the liaison, the putting in contact of potential partners, of potential companies, as you were saying, both startups or SMEs, according to the molecular approach.
You perfectly understood, Rafaela. Today, I would like to launch my own startup, but in fact, what's missing now is a kind of marketing website. That's what I call to put in touch this entrepreneur from Italy, from Germany, I will call that the Mythic. Mythic is a French website. It's a Mythic for entrepreneur. But you are right. It's missing now. Because just to be sure, because I know.
No. Okay, just to be sure that I caught the crucial information. That's an interesting approach, and of course, FRISTART project as other being set up in the framework of cross-border cooperation, or even on a larger scale and transnational, or interregional level, have specifically this kind of purpose. Also a group of selected beneficiaries of FRISTART project, part of them are attending right now. We'll have the opportunity very soon. Indeed, the first chance will be in Sassari on the 15th November and the 16th morning to meet each other, and we strongly encourage the, let's say, contamination, as I can call it, the positive contamination across companies who are willing to be entrepreneurs, because indeed, as we just have witnessed also at the regional level, there's a general propension or willingness amongst willing to be entrepreneurs to share experiences, to make in confrontation their past practical issues or experiences made during the management of the company. So we do see that this kind of also informal session, like meetings, networking sessions, are quite helpful because I mean, ideas can be brought about also in this context. So I'd really like to welcome both Fabio and Jerome. We do hope to have further chances, of course, maybe to meet or to involve you in other project-related activities, like, for instance, FRISTART in the next week. So we'll keep you updated, of course. And if you have still some time and you are, of course, more than welcome to follow the session until the very end. And I was just taking also some time in order to check if anybody in the audience would be willing to raise a hand or ask questions. But I also asked my colleague, apparently, for the moment being, we don't have any direct action, but of course, if there will be any, we will forward them to you, or we'll pass your contacts to the participants if you agree on that. And I haven't told it at the beginning, but we will make available your slides, if you on that, so that people can, of course, go through them and maybe think about them. And that's another issue.
Sorry, Raffaele. The question from the chat.
Okay.
So the question is for Fabio.
Okay.
And is with how can we predict the fundament of a specific product in a specific country? And the second question is about if there are any database with data on similar product as my own to consult.
What is precisely the difference between molecular? Okay, so also another question which I've just seen popping up. We ask Fabio to answer back first.
Okay, so this question is related to how to predict if a product can be okay or not okay for, let's say, a certain market.
Yes, exactly.
I would say that the first thing is related to the macroeconomic environment, okay? Because if a product is okay or not okay, it doesn't depend just on the product itself. For example, also on also depends also on the state of the economy, of the local economy. For example, an economy that will be experimenting crisis will be more reluctant, okay, in absorbing products, while an economy that is in expansion will be, of course, more open. So the first thing is evaluating the macroeconomic environment. There are three sources, certified online. Of course, if you want, you write me and I can send you information about that. It's free and you can study about that. The second thing is related to the product. The product can be, depends on the product, of course, but there are also free sources to understand if a product can be, let's say, interesting or not interesting for a certain market. And there are, of course, databases. And if you write to me, I can give you all the information. Of course, they're free, and you can evaluate everything you need by yourself. So the important thing is understanding methodology, and then the methodology can be applied to any kind of products or services.
Thank you. Jérôme, the question for you, I don't know if you have written in the meanwhile, what is precisely the difference between molecular startup and licensing model?
Okay, in a licensing model, there is still two startups. Okay, molecular model, at the end of the day, there is one startup. Okay, so the molecular model means that you merge two startups. In licensing model, you don't merge any startup. Okay, so this is also the beauty of the model. If at the end of the day, you don't sell your IP, you don't license any other company. You make one company with two companies.
Okay, second question for you. What should start looking at molecular approach? Ideation phase, product market fit later?
Yeah, you know, the very first step of the molecular merging is to, let's say, addition between the two human body, between the two EU, okay? And but you know what? The point is really the same vision, because the product, it could be the same product, but it would be two different products, but very complementary. So the very first point is the two guy, the woman or the two women or the two guy should must really have some vision and want to make one company, only one company. At the end of the day, there is one CEO, not two. So it's the very first process, the very first step is the human issue, is how to fix the issue, how to decide to make one company for two products. Okay. The matching between the two CEO.
Okay. For the moment, I don't see any other question raised. So I guess at least for now we can say a little bit the subject and going towards the second part of the session, which was try to give the participants a general overview of what happens at regional or national level in our partner regions of the project, which we remember there are Liguria, Tuscany, Sardinia, and Corse, and of course Pacca, Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur. What happens over there in the, let's say, from the point of view of financial support or incentives or measures supporting the internationalization processes for companies or whether startup or consolidated companies. So I would like to give the floor to the colleague from in Corse. Stephanie, are you there?
Yes.
Would you give your presentation?
Hi.
You can upload it then.
Okay. And I can save.
Already have the permission from the technical coordinator, Andrea.
Yes.
Yes, just put it in full mode.
Yes, yes, yes.
The floor is yours. Thank you.
I'm trying to. Oh, goodbye. Okay. So yeah, we'll tell you about several ways to finance Corsican company. We'll focus on the support.
Sorry, Stephanie. Can you order or
oh, sorry.
or
Maybe
more closer to the microphone? Yeah.
Okay, it's better. Okay. So I will focus on regional policies to support internationalization of companies. First, and key points on market, on Corsican market, is very small because we are 350,000 the island, which is very, very small population, and it's for companies to cover the whole market because it's really a mainland, and we are very famous for that, but it makes also difficult for companies to have a full cover of the Corsican market, even if it's around hour. So infrastructure constraints and the geographical mainly. So exportations, the restaurant island, and so it's more expensive for production, especially for transportation cost. There are policies to favor and to provide cheaper both for the goods, to transport goods, but still it's very expensive. The market is composed of very, very small companies. 90% are what we call in France TPE, very small companies, less than 20 employees, I would say. But we really have a dynamic and innovative bunch of companies, which is a result of a strong regional policy that has been operated and aided by the collectivité de Corse for 10 years, I would say. Sorry. So collectivity, the regional government, and it defines the policies for economic development, and the agency to manage and to set it up really on an operational stage is the Développement économique de la Corse, which is the agency that take care of that. So there is an international team at ADEC, which is the contact point for all the projects linked to the internal level of private companies. So actions with ADEC for a national partnership with Business France, which to co-finance 50% of Business France services for Corsican companies up to, I believe, 300,000 euros a year. Business France presentation today, so I did not really focus on Business France activities in this presentation, but I could provide you more, yes, if you want. Also organizes diplomatic missions abroad in targeted countries, and currently setting up actually an economic ambassador network. The goal is to have some people really introduced in local markets to help companies get international. And also in human resources, the co-financing of volontaires internationaux en entreprise, which is this support also to get young people working like a bit like trainees, but I think it's a few years. Also group actions and individual support via Atout Impresa Mondo, which is what I will describe more specifically in the next slide. The Impresa Mondo is both group action or individual support. It's direct support with a global annual budget of 1.2 million euros to support Corsican companies. For eligible companies, must have a headquarters in Corsica or a subsidiary with actual business going on in Corsica. There are, of course, non-cumulative limitations, and it's under the form of grants according to decision that ADEC bureaus. It's like a jury, and it makes the decision on the project. So it's a good thing, but with the grants, it has to be spent. It sometimes can be a problem of treasury, but there are other tools to cope with this problem. It also uses information initiatives in and out of the country, and it includes trips to Corsican companies to major international business events or exhibitions such as Web Summit or CES Las Vegas. The opening missions abroad, individual programs to support exhibitions, and support to sales representation abroad. If I'd like to illustrate a bit more what is individual support for companies, maybe. All the costs linked to international exhibitions can be reversed by ADEC under the pas tout imprésamment. The booth costs, the registration fees, traveling and accommodations, and facility rental also. And also prospection costs could cover translation, marketing documents, multilingual and multi-currency e-commerce websites, external support from experts to specific and HR, the recruitment of trainees dedicated to international missions for the company. I give you the contact of Lesia Sargentini, which is the head of the international mission at ADEC, and which would be the contact for really to know more about of ADEC. It also have a support to company for international, but via our network, Enterprise Europe network, which some of you already know of, but it's not really a direct topic of the financing of internationalization. So today I chose to focus on ADEC support, but I'm available and I'm directly to tell more about EN actions of Inizia in Corsica. Oh, done. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Stephanie, for the presentation. I guess that we will, of course, then have the opportunity to share the presentation with the participants, for sure.
Sure.
And since you named it, and we are quite an old partner of the network, also when it was named Euro Center before and Innovation Relay Center on the other side, so therefore going back to the late 80s and early 90s, yes, indeed, Enterprise Europe Network, you can easily find it also on the website, just type in the name Enterprise Europe Network, and you will be able to understand what kind of mission it has on the ground. And as Stephanie was saying, ourselves in Liguria region and the colleagues in Pará, under the, if I'm not wrong, under the Agency for Internationalization and Innovation, are managing the network, and we provide assistance to companies or to those who work with companies to go, to grow, one, and to gain in competitiveness and innovation. So don't, of course, don't hesitate to come back to us also for further information on that. I just taken some time in order to check whether there were interests from the audience in asking questions to our colleague Stephanie. I don't see it right now, but if they write to the organizer, then we ask Andrea to tell us something about that, whether there are some news about that.
Any questions?
Okay, but we still have time, so if Stephanie stays with us until the end of the webinar, we can of course come back to this maybe later on. So I take once again to give you some information from what concerns the national and then regional situation for what concerns internationalization's activities and the support to that. Well, for those companies who are based in Italy, so therefore not already Italian companies, but those who might be willing to register a site in Italy, this is the major organization to be aware of at national level. The name is CIMES, and it is the society, is the company, the entity within the Italian group of the financial institution named Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, who is responsible for supporting companies in the internationalization processes. So meaning, as you can see, it's quite easy if you go, I do hope you can see from the slides, but if you can just type CIMES.it on your laptop, on your computer, then you will find under the label Prodotti e Servizi the section related to financing for internationalization. We don't go necessarily due to a lack of time into details of the best trend of intervention, but it is important for you to know that this entity, this public organization at national level, supports through interest rates, low interest rates, the participation, for instance, of companies to fair exhibitions and company missions abroad, meaning outside the European boundaries, and in any case outside Italian boundaries. Then it also supports the feasibility study, meaning that, for instance, like in your case, if you would be willing to set up a company and to set up an international business, so therefore to just go through the potential opportunities and what it means to open a new entity abroad, you can have an interesting opportunity to have a coverage, as I repeat, of a low interest rate for a feasibility study, therefore to understand what is needed for you to set up a company, to start a business abroad. Last but not least, there is also the capacity opportunity to fund the delocalization of a company into in a foreign market. So in the countries, as we call those countries outside European Union boundaries. So in this case, you can have a coverage which goes up to 80% in terms of interest rate of the total investment to open up a new site, meaning it can be like a commercial site or a production site in a third country. It can be really useful. Then, as a complementary action, there are also some technical assistance programs, meaning that you can receive a contribution to improve the skills of your employees in a foreign country. That's indeed the first set of relevant support for companies willing to go abroad, and also the very last point you see here, a coverage for export companies, therefore to give funding to secure exportations from Italian companies to foreign markets. So therefore, what it concerns, a very rapid and general overview situation at national level. So therefore, every company is entitled. There is no limitation in principle of economic sector or localization, provided it is, of course, Italy, the country of origin, and that's something at national level. To the Liguria situation, we must confess that for the moment being, we are still waiting, so maybe there could be room that for a support to internationalization stemming from the regional European Fund for Regional Development, FESR is the acronym in Italy, and is managed as operational program by the Liguria regional government. Actually, the Liguria Agency for Internationalization, which is named Liguria International, is supposed, maybe towards the end of the year or maybe next year, to be able to manage a line of assistance to companies, to Libyan companies, willing to open businesses or to go abroad in different ways. We still have to get information, more precise information on the content of the call for proposal. So we invite you to keep in touch with us, because the Regional Chamber of Commerce, we are responsible also for what we call azione economica at regional level, meaning that we will for sure, once the call is available, make promotional events across the region to inform companies on how to participate and to take part of the call. But for the time being, unfortunately, I don't have any other relevant information on that instrument to provide you with. In any case, as it's normal to say, stay tuned with us and we'll tell you more. This is indeed another very local, let's say, opportunity, which is still running until the end of the year, and which is managed by one of the two Chamber of Commerce in Liguria region, which is the Chamber of Commerce Riviera di Liguria. So they have set up, and you can see on this link. Let's see if you can still see my screen. Yes, indeed. So here, of course, it's Italian, but it's a web dedicated to this measure. So that the Chamber of Commerce has set up a fund, a provision of 100,000 euros for companies located in the 3 provinces where the Chamber of Commerce operates, which are Impera, Savona, and La Spezia. And what it helps doing this kind of fund, it helps some companies who are willing to participate in a fair, in an exhibition abroad, to set up the stand, to organize it, to rent equipment, or to make it available also in terms of consumption of electricity and other facilities. And of course, any other, it's quite an important matter, any expenses that would be useful to engage a so-called temporary export manager. These are consultants that a company in Italy can hire to have general support on strategies for internationalization. So this is a voucher which can be of up 2,500 or 3,000 euros maximum per company, according to the kind of expenditure you have to face. So that's something which is still available for the moment being, but the condition to participate is that you are located in one of these provinces. But in case I leave you in mind the opportunity to go back and read it more attentively for any further information you may have. In any case, please feel free to contact me if you need more information on these tools for what concerns our region and also the CIMA side, and I'll be happy to provide you with more information on it. I say that since we are more or less running out of time, maybe we can leave the floor to Olga from Tuscany. Of course, in the meanwhile, as there are always some minutes to share, to give him the opportunity to share the laptop and his presentation. If there is any question right now, you can of course ask it in that way. If there are any, or otherwise we give the floor to the colleague Fabio Croci. I'm not wrong.
Yeah. Hi, thanks, Raffaella. Presentation right now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, Andrea, not see the share my screen. Maybe.
Well, you should have. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
No, this is a whiteboard.
Sorry, I changed. So now
okay.
Maybe it's
okay.
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 Thanks also to Rella, because you already talked about something that I was willing to say during my presentation about the CMS. So my presentation will be a little bit shorter than foreseen in the beginning. But anyway, first of all, my name is Fabio Croci. I am a consultant in European projects and public funding. And let's have a short overview about the call for grants and opportunities in Tuscany region regarding the internationalization. As Raffaella has said regarding Liguria context, we have something similar in Tuscany, talking about 3 different levels of administration. First of all, we have a local region from the Chamber of Commerce, the Camera di Commercio, and then we have a similar tool from the Tuscany region, which is called Bando Internazionalizzazione, and I will focus my presentation mainly on this instrument. And then, as already said by Raffaella, we have also the CMS instrument, as in all Italian context. I would like to underline the fact that during the presentation request from the SMEs, it is a very idea to have a look at the Italian Trade and Investment Agency website. I have put it in the bottom of my presentation, because during the preparation of the proposal, there are a lot of instruments that can be used in the description of the market and the context that can be used in the project. I also want to share my presentation on the chat box so that you can use it as you prefer. Just a second, and I will put something like maybe. No, I cannot. Okay. Anyway, I'm going back to my presentation, and later I will go back to the chat box. Now, go back. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, Andrea, you presentation right now?
Yep, yes, I can see it.
As I was saying, I am moving along the presentation of the contribution from the chambers. Right now we have, if I'm correct, in Tuscany only two instruments of this kind, one from Pisa and the other one from Pista. Unfortunately, they are not exactly the same, because the Chamber of Commerce have an autonomy in building the call for grants, but similarly than what Raffaella described in the Liguria, we have very small call for grants between 2,000 and 2,500 euros for participating in international fairs, or in fairs in Italy which are recognized as of fair of international importance. So there is rising the call for grants from Pisa. You will see that there is a calendar, an agenda of the fair which have which are recognized as international importance. Anyway, you have to present a very simple presentation in a simplification, but actually you have first of all to check if resources are still available, because there are not so much resources in each department, around 100,000 euros. So both the Pisa and the Pistoia one have been open for a little bit, so you have to check it twice. And of course, there can be other call for grants here in Tuscany, the other Chamber of Commerce, but we don't have, unfortunately, an agenda and a timetable of all the call for grants. So you have to check, depending on where is located your company, your Chamber of Commerce, to have a detailed agenda. This is what you can have from the Chamber of Commerce of Pisa. As I was saying, you have a contribution between 2,000 and 2,500 euros, which covers the 50% of the expenditures. And the different amount depends on where you are, where is located the fair in which you are participating. So you are in Italy or in European Union, you have 2,000 euros as a maximum grant. Otherwise, you have up to 2,500 euros. This kind of instruments is quite easy because, of course, the grant is very low, we can say. But moving on to Tuscany level, the so-called Bando Internazionalizzazione. This is a call for grant which has already been done in the past years. If I'm correct, there have been 3 editions starting from 2015. And now we have so the 4th call, and probably a fifth call will be done in during next year, and this last information must be double-checked depending on the timetable of the next year, but it's quite important because the actual call for grants, sorry, I'm coming back to the first page, the actual call for grants is almost finished in terms of financial amounts. So if the actual presented request from the SMEs will all be accepted, there is no more room in terms of financial availability. But it is important to understand how it works, because if you are interested in applying in such an instrument also for next year, you have to consider that this is not like the previous ones, quite simple instrument. This is a quite difficult instrument. We are going to see a very short, in a very quick overview, which are the main aspects. First of all, which is the one we are talking about? It depends on the dimension of the company. There are different grants depending on the dimension, from micro, piccola, medio, impresa. So micro impresa is the company 10 employees, then you have between 10 and 50 employees, and then up to 250 employees. Or you can also apply as a consortium of at least 3 enterprises, and you can have a grant up to 35,000 euros. But the most important thing is that you cannot expend this money in any kind of activities. We have here in Tuscany what is called the Catalogo dei Servizi Qualificati, the catalog for qualified services, and you have to double check which kind of activities you are interested in. There is an official web page of the Tuscany region in which you can find the updated catalog. This is a very extensive catalog about whatever you can have in terms of funding, public funding under the Tuscany region. Regarding the internationalization, we have 5 main activities which can be funded. First of all, of course, the participation in the fairs, but because the call is aimed to have a more wide intervention in terms of internationalization, you also have the supporting activities and facilities that can be asked under this call, like the specific supports to establish offices or offices in other countries, the promotional services, the support to the feasibility for internationalization, and to develop a commercial network in those countries. These kind of activities must be done by external agencies with references. So you need, for instance, with agencies which have at least 3 years of expertise in similar projects of internationalization, and you need also to prove that they have professionals with experience. The chief of the project must have at least 10 years of experience. And in the fact sheet, you will find a detail of all the activities that you can fund under this call. Unfortunately, the catalog is only in Italian. This is because we don't have any translation in English provided by the Tuscany region. But anyway, there is a very long details of which kind of activities you have to manage during the preparation of the call. And you also have to already have individuated which are the consulting agency you want to present under this call. Again, this is a quite complex call, so you will need some assistance from professionals or from the public support. Consider that the writing of this proposal needs some weeks so to have a correct presentation. I had also a short presentation about the instruments that Rafael already presented before from the CMES, so I'm not going to present them again. Maybe, Andrea, you will tell me if you want that I go on with the presentation of the Tuscany region, or if I leave the room to another speaker, or maybe specific question on what I have told until now.
Okay, Fabio. No, I think that the time is right to close the web. So I invite, yes, if you have any question, please do it never.
But in case, I mean, sorry, Fabio, if I've overlapped with your presentation, but I guess that we have been complementary because you have the chance to have operational programs and measures under the regional government funds. So it's good for the companies to know about that and to have also a general overview of other instruments, which are quite similar indeed, but it's good within your regional system of chambers of commerce. So I guess that we have been complementary in that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I know that maybe we have overloaded people with a set of information, but I do hope it has been interesting for the participants. Before we leave the session, I would like to remind all participants that the second webinar, open to all candidates of the FRISTART Cup competition, will be on the 29th October, once again at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it will focus on access to finance as a topic. So we'll have the opportunity to learn some tips and tricks, let's say, from a different range of investors, and on how to relate with investors and what are the most useful funding schemes according to the life stage of the company. So there is no request for explanation or clarification. I'd like to thank on behalf of all FRISTART Partnership all participants, and therefore we say bye to or farewell to 29th of October. Thank you.